your only obstacle to finding love is yourself. It's not the city that you date in. It's not that you need to lose 5 or 10 pounds. It's not that this haircut didn't work or you need a better outfit or a better job or this or that. It's really just you. Like you're limiting yourself. Hello, welcome back to Dating Rehab with Anna Morgenstern. Today I have Rebecca Marcus with me. She is a dating and relationship therapist. And actually, we met because she sometimes refers some of her clients to me. I've always said that, that's one of the most obvious collaborations is therapists and matchmakers because we want the people that have done therapy, that are ready to date. And if you are referred by your therapist that you're a good dater, I think that speaks volumes. So thank you, Rebecca, for coming on today.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm excited to chat about everything.
Yeah, tell us a little bit more about your practice. Who do you typically work with? And do you work with men, with women, singles, people in relationships?
So I'm based in New York City, but I'm fully virtual. So I see clients in New York and Florida, and mainly working with women like 20s to 40s. Some that are single and looking to get into relationships, some that now are in relationships and need some guidance and support because we all know the work doesn't end once you meet your person. So I work with some men, like on their marriages or working on their relationships, and I have worked with some men, kind of coming out of breakups, those kind of things. I would say it's majority women, but I also do work with men, and I also just started working a little bit with new parents, like moms, on kind of the changes in dynamic around the relationship, and like communication and assertiveness, those kind of things. Because I was kind of seeing the trend of, just people like meeting, what they're sort of valuing when they are looking for a partner. And then if you want to have kids, like how does that translate when you guys do become parents?
You really follow them throughout their entire journey of well, relationship, marriage, and being new moms.
And I do deal a little bit with like breakups too and kind of helping people move on from that.
That's a big one. We might have to get into that in a little bit too, because that's a tough one. People just want like the magic answer when you're going through a breakup to make you feel better. And there's really nothing you can say, just time really, right?
Yeah, and I guess also, kind of how you use the time too. But
Hmm.
yeah, sometimes you have to like move through it. But I think there's things we could do to at least like turn the volume down of the intensity of the feelings. Um,
Yeah. Well, one thing I really want to chat with you about is anxiety around dating. I think it's something that is just we hear with any kind of topic that you can think of, there's anxiety around it.
yeah.
And I think dating even more so. There is a lot of anxiety around dating. I think, we have the dating apps which were made to be like casino games. So we know they're gamified. So obviously giving us anxiety because we're not getting good matches anymore. We're wondering why. Is
Or
it
like
us?
who's swiping, yeah.
Exactly. Like it does make you question your self worth if you used to get good matches and then you don't get matches anymore, even though it's because they're trying to get you to pay. But there's still, part of you that questions your self worth. And then, with all the ghosting and breadcrumbing and all the different things that we have out there, I feel like anxiety has hit an all time high. Is that something you're seeing with your clients as well?
Yeah, definitely. And whether it's anxiety about when they're going to meet someone, anxiety about just like social anxiety on dates, anxiety about, things ending once they meet someone they like. Yeah, it definitely shows up everywhere.
Hmm. I mean, do you have a couple of tips if you're, newly dating, you're going on some first dates, and you're feeling some anxiety? Do you have any tips for people to kind of get out of their own head and just kind of date in a more, I don't know, hopeful, positive place?
Mindful. Yeah, definitely. So I always recommend doing a little bit of like kind of grounding exercises, like orienting yourself, whether it's, a few minutes before the date or when you're on the date, kind of just looking at your surroundings, feeling your feet on the ground, taking a breath, and also kind of reminding yourself to take the pressure off, especially on the first date. All you have to decide is, am I having a pleasant time? Would I like to go out again? And I think also noticing it's very easy to get into kind of a scarcity mindset, which I think we talked about before in terms of this is the only person. I'm never going to meet someone. There's no guys left. They took the last good guy. It's natural that we do that, but beginning to notice and observe when we're doing that. Was there a trigger that got us into that? and taking a moment to pause and remind ourselves, no, actually, I only need to meet one. I can do this. Like finding ways to be okay with the present moment, regardless if you're single or in a relationship. I think kind of just reminding yourself, like, it's okay. He's on his way, and seeing if you can like move into that feeling of like, it's coming, even if it feels a little bit hard. It's sometimes people have trouble believing that someone's out there for them. I say maybe just try to suspend disbelief. Well, what would it be like if you did meet someone? And kind of taking the pressure off. Like, I always say like quality over quantity with dating. Because I think people, especially with the apps, get so focused on the numbers. And so sometimes there's also like like kind of dating app fatigue and burnout. So, like coming back to yourself, taking a break if you need to. It's also great to have community, like minded, positive people, mentors that the advice that they give you resonates with you. I think, having support is important too when you feel like you're getting in your head. But those are some things I would kind of recommend, and like practicing a little bit of mindfulness and reframing. Okay, like checking in with yourself and not worrying so much about like how many dates you have lined up, but like, okay, like what are my values and needs in a relationship? And are these people, do they have?
Gosh, there's so much there. That's so good. I'm like, okay, I don't even know where to begin, but I totally agree with everything that you said. I think we do put so much pressure on each date to go well that we're not even so concerned if we're aligned with that person. We just want them to like us. And if they don't like
Here's
us, it
that.
feels, yeah, exactly. Like we just want to be chosen. But in reality, it's equally as important that you like them for them to like, as them liking you. And then also, staying present, you said that a few times. I think that's so important as well, because I remember on first dates that I would go on, I was like, oh my gosh, he's tall, he's cute, he's funny. Our kids would be so cute. I can already see myself living in, the suburbs with him. Like we just let our minds get run away from us so far into the future because we're so excited. And exactly. And it's like when if that person doesn't choose to go out with us again, we're not only mourning the loss of that first date, but the entire life that we envisioned with that person. And it becomes really difficult to move on after just one date with someone because we get so attached to an outcome rather than being in that moment and really just, thinking, okay, like, is this someone that, I actually could have a future with? And most importantly, if someone isn't interested in getting to know you more, or they're not, texting you with any kind of urgency and they're leaving you on red for hours or days, weeks. That's not the person that you want to end up with.
Right.
They're not
Exactly.
giving the qualities that this is someone that you should invest in because they're not investing in you. And I always found that so interesting when I was dating. Like, why am I caught up by someone that didn't invest in me? Like, why am I so invested in them? And it's again just staying present in the moment.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a lot of projection, like you said, sometimes where you're sort of like projecting, like focusing on a person's image. You don't actually really know them that well, but like you said, they have like qualities that society has told us are really important. And then we create this whole like narrative around it, right? Even if we don't really know them. But I do think, that feeling of like, oh, like finally I met, like that is a real thing when people are nervous about meeting someone or they've been dating for a while. So it's still important to kind of name that for yourself but then like not sit in it for like a long time, right? That it like blocks you or keeps you stuck.
Exactly. I tell people if you do have a bit of anxiety when it comes to dating, try not to only focus on one person. If it's only been one date, try to have a few things going. So that way you're not too caught up in the outcome of this one date, this one person. Have maybe someone else that you have a date planned with the following week or someone else that you're chatting with. So that way kind of takes the pressure off a little bit. But then again, I also I feel like you do at some point need to focus on one person. Dating
I
around
agree.
too much.
I feel like by like 3 or 4 dates, I think it's good to kind of just like decide. Otherwise, feel it's like a little too confusing. And also, it's hard to just like be present with getting to know that person.
Exactly. It's like the Cheesecake Factory menu. There's too many options. You can't make a decision.
And honestly, I think in New York, I don't know if but I think sometimes like that it's like good that there's a big dating pool, but I think people often have this mentality of like, oh, there's something else out there better and I don't want to settle, I don't want to commit. Yeah. So, there's so many different factors.
Exactly. Another thing I definitely want to chat with you about because I have a lot of clients in my age group. I just turned 40 this year.
Happy
And so I have clients that are late 30s, early 40s, female clients that, they want to get married, they want to have a family, and they feel that anxiety, that ticking, like bomb basically of their fertility and being able to
birthday.
have all the things that they're looking for. And I try to give them tips on how to not let that translate into a date, because no man wants to feel like they're just a sperm donor. And I've had so many men tell me over the years that they felt that if they go out with a woman that is in that age group, where it's like date one, it's like, okay,
Urgency,
yeah,
yeah.
and they might be in the same position, like, they wanna have kids ASAP too, but they just don't wanna feel like a stand-in. They want to still have that connection and have a real, relationship with someone, not just be, like I said, that sperm donor. Any, like, specific tips for women in that category to not let them have that urgency felt on first dates?
Yeah. Well, I kind of touches on what you had mentioned before about like detaching a little bit from the details of the outcome. And I think that that can be like helpful for anyone, but definitely, it's a valid thing, like in terms of age and fertility. However, I do sometimes feel like it's a huge industry. There are a lot of women that benefit from it. There are a lot of people that do struggle with infertility. However, I do think that sometimes it's really, really pushed all the people that have problems with it, and they don't always talk about 'em. Well, that like there are plenty of women in their early 40s that conceive naturally. Um,
Exactly.
and there's a lot of medical science available. Many of these women have already frozen their eggs. But in terms of fertility, it doesn't always have to do with age. So I just try to like bring people back down to earth a little bit with that. And then also thinking about like kind of reminding them to think about like, well, what are traits that you would want in someone that you're parenting with? That someone that would be a good father. Because at the end of the day, like you're gonna be in the trenches. Like I have two small children, and like the guy that is like the life of the party that's really suave and charming, is he going to help you in the night when the baby wakes up? Like, is he gonna change the diaper blowouts or like help you with the potty? So some of these things, I think it's just helpful to also think about that and think about like there could be a guy that I like, but like trying to focus on more of like that feeling of when I'm connecting with someone and almost like try to detach from the exact details. It's hard, but I think reminding ourselves like this or something better. And also filling yourself up, even when you're in a relationship, like you can't only rely on your partner to give you meaning and purpose and happiness because they'll just fall short. Even with the most perfect, I mean, perfect for you. I don't think anyone's perfect. Guy, you can't fully rely on them. So I think really like filling your life up with other meaningful things as well, in addition to dating and kind of being in that place where it's like, I enjoy my life. I'm ready to build with someone, but I'm not in a desperate, miserable place. And it's hard, but I think that is the work sometimes.
Spot on. I love that you said that charismatic, fun, spotlight guy. Is he going to really be the one that's going to be in the trenches with you when there is a newborn? And when you're coming back from the hospital, you need a lot of help because your body went through something really traumatic. Is he going to be the one that's going to take care of you? I really love that you said that, because some of the qualities that women say they're looking for in men: tall, fun, charismatic, life of the part. They want those qualities because, yes, we're all attracted to that charismatic guy.
And I think we're socialized also like with all the media and TV and yeah.
That's not the guy that you really want next to you, through all of life's challenges and all the things that you're going to go through. When I met my husband, one of the things that really attracted to me, to him early on, was just he was such a good brother and a good son, and he really valued his relationship with his friends. And it's like, wow, like this person is really caring. He always puts himself out to make others comfortable, and he always puts his family and friends first. And I thought, wow, like this is the kind.
Considerate, someone who's considerate, thoughtful, reliable.
Exactly. I was like, wow, this guy would really be there for me when I needed him. And that's honestly what you really want at the end of the day. I tell my female clients all the time, him being 5'8" or 5'11" will make zero difference in your happiness in a marriage. And to make that be a limiting factor, like a disqualifying factor in dating, you are
No.
just doing yourself such a disservice. And you have to get yourself, and they say, well, I like to wear my heels. I'm like, when you have two little kids running around at home,
No, I
you're
can't.
not, you're
I
not
mean,
going to be
well,
thinking about
I
those
do
heels.
understand if a woman is like say 5'11", like that maybe she, wants somebody that's at like her height or similar because I think sometimes with body image for women,
Of course.
having a husband that's much smaller can be it
They're
just
not the
can
ones
bring
that are
up
a problem. It's the 5 feet
no,
girls. Because as far as I'm
exactly.
concerned,
That's
they are the
I
problem.
meet many girls and I'm like, you're like very short. You could date there's a lot of guys you could date. They're like, well, I really prefer 6 feet. Okay, good luck with
Exactly.
that. But then you're also missing out on people, and that's such a it's like a, such a superficial quality that, yeah, it's a nice to have, and so I think that's also how like, helping people distinguish, like, what's a nice to have and what's a non-negotiable, and are your non-negotiables actually realistic and, like, do they make, like, a sustainable relationship long term versus just hot and heavy fireworks, which are not a ton, we love them, but yeah, it's like they're gonna fade. And if there's nothing, no foundation, I mean, this is why there's so many divorces.
Yeah, I actually will argue that the relationship that starts more stable and safe, the fireworks build as you're
Yeah,
together
the
longer.
slow burn.
I can't even tell you, like, from how I feel about my husband today versus when we met, 2.5 years ago. I find him more attractive every day. Like, every time I kiss him, I feel like that passion more and more with each passing month that I'm with him. It's only grown, that passion. And so to limit yourself of have to have that spark day one, where if you start at 100 on a
And
first
that
date, you're
is
gonna wear
this
your
idea
pajamas.
of like an obsession and like,
Mhm.
yeah, it's very like Hollywood fantasy. I mean, I think we're kind of fed it at such a young age. I don't like Disney movies, Sex and the City, Boy Meets World, but we don't see the ongoing. I mean, I guess that wouldn't sell. Maybe that wouldn't get us a
Exactly.
great. Yeah.
Exactly. It's so misleading. I always say your first date with your future partner should be when you're least excited and attracted about him, only or her
We want it
if
to
you want to
grow.
grow.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, especially for women as they feel like emotionally understood and validated and connected, like obviously, if someone is repulsed, it probably won't. But if it's neutral, I
Mhm.
think it often does grow.
Absolutely. I think of all of my friends that are in very happy marriages. It's not, they never married, like a Ken doll. Like their husbands, like they're good people. They're good fathers. They're good husbands and they're cute. They're not like repulsive in any way, but they're not like,
Right. You don't need to be
oh,
like supermodel.
exactly.
And
And I don't know.
I mean, sometimes you see with those type of guys also that their personalities, I mean, I don't know, not necessarily, but sometimes there is like they haven't really had to develop so much of a personality because they've just kind of gotten a lot of praise for their looks.
Yeah, we can see that on TV with Love Island. The guys that get voted off first are the tallest ones that never developed a personality because everyone on Love Island is hot. So if you don't have the chat, the banter, as they say, then you will be voted off. And I think it's like a very eye-opening experience for these people. And they grow a lot from the show because they can't just rely on their looks. They have to have something deeper. And I love seeing that because it's just such a good example that you have to be more than do you think that attraction can grow for men the way it can for women, at least a little bit?
I like that you said a little bit. Yeah, I think that it can. I mean, you tell me what your thoughts also, but I think it's different for men. Like, I think they definitely know when they're attracted to a woman, but we can also see how sometimes then that could be fleeting too.
Mhm.
And then I think similar, it could be like neutral. I think if they're already like very unattracted, I don't think that it would. But I think if it's like sort of neutral as they bond and connect, I think that it could. But there are some men who like, well, they know right away they're attracted, but that also doesn't mean that that is the right person for them. And then they might
Absolutely.
lose interest like after pursuing them or,
Absolutely, or as they get to know them and they
Yeah,
realize
exactly.
we have nothing to talk about, or, "Oh, she doesn't have good values," or, I mean, I can't tell you how many men that I've worked with that all have an ex who is absolutely stunning, but crazy mental health issues. Like, every single one of them has gone through that, and I'm like, at what point, like, do you go down a little bit on looks to have someone who's gonna be loyal and trustworthy and that you can have a great relationship with? Like, what are there's gonna be a trade-off no matter what you do. If you want to end up with someone, there's going to be a trade off somewhere. You're not going to get the supermodel who's
Yeah,
also a
nobody has
scientist.
everything. So that's
Exactly.
why I think the, like, kind of, like, realistic, accurate non-negotiables are an important thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like, we don't nobody wants you to not be attracted to your partner, but I think it's kinda having this more realistic framework of what that actually means.
Hmm. Yeah. I do think that if you're dating from a place of like insecurity or scarcity, where maybe you were a little bit of the ugly duckling growing up, so then you want to overcompensate as an adult and date the hottest people you can because it kind of fills whatever void that you have or trauma that you had
From,
growing
like,
up.
high school,
Mhm.
yeah.
I think I see that a lot, especially with men that are looking to date a very
Yeah, I could see
like,
that.
I see it all the time with these men, and I'm thinking, "Okay, like, if this is the only thing you're looking for, you're gonna either end up divorced with half your money or consistently single." Like, you have to prioritize other characteristics or, values than them just looking a certain way, or having a certain background. If, I have people
Mm.
that only wanna date someone with Ivy Leagues because
Exactly,
that
yeah. But, like, is that I mean, when it's a value to value education, but, like, again, these, like, specific details, I think we do have to detach from because
I
often you're
agree.
gonna miss I mean, even for myself, my husband initially, I was dating guys locally in New York, and then I had started people giving me ideas, like, outside of New York, and I was like, "You know what? I'm open to dating people outside of New York. Like if I met the right person, I would move." So I decided to be like that. Like that's kind of an arbitrary thing. And my husband was in Toronto. He ended up moving here. But if I had said like, no, I'm not considering him. He's not in New York, and as well as like other things too that were like maybe not like exactly in the box or like type, but that actually didn't really matter. So I think we kind of have to ask ourselves like, are we looking for marriage or like a relationship? Do we know what that actually means? Or are we thinking like looking for like a fantasy that doesn't really exist? And also, how are we getting in our own way?
Absolutely. I've always said your only obstacle to finding love is yourself. It's not the city that you date in. It's not that you need to lose 5 or 10 pounds. It's not that this haircut didn't work or you need a better outfit or a better job or this or that. It's really just you. Like you're limiting
Yeah,
yourself.
your energy, I think. Yeah, and the way that you show up. Yeah.
Do you follow any online dating coaches that you like their advice or any that you do not like? Because I feel like there's so many online. I don't even want to call them dating coaches because they're just people that have an iPhone and they're spewing their advice. But do you have any that you've seen that you think is almost dangerous advice for people to follow?
So one, I personally, I mean, I don't maybe this was just for me, but I made a point to take advice from people that also like were in like a few steps ahead of me that had a healthy relationship, maybe like sort of like the one I would want to see myself in. And so I think for me personally, when you're seeing people maybe that don't have this, I don't know if they're like the best person to really take the expert advice from. Obviously, we all have to work on ourselves. Nobody's perfect. I still have to work on my own marriage, my own anxiety, my own communication. It's never like set in stone, but I think sometimes it helps if somebody's also walked that path.
Mhm.
So I know this is it's controversial, but in terms of hooking up prematurely. It's not that I feel like if women want to, they absolutely can, but I do find that it can cloud your judgment a little bit in terms of like, that infatuation builds because it's all the oxytocin and dopamine. And sometimes, like what you're saying, they're so focused on this image of this like hot guy that like made me feel, I felt like all this passion, but, and then they like some of these, like they're breadcrumbing, or like maybe they don't actually have the traits that like you're looking for. They're, and sometimes I also think that men, sometimes they're like instantly attracted. And then when they can immediately have it, I mean, not always, because there's definitely people that do hook up like right away and they get married. So it's not like a set rule, but sometimes I do find that guys are kind of like, well, okay. And then they kind of lose interest. So I like to tell people, if a guy's pressuring you, because I see this sometimes, women feeling pressured that they have to go back to the guy's apartment and hook up, and they're not ready yet, even if they do like the guy, that the right guy, like it doesn't really matter how long you wait or don't wait. Like you can't mess it up if it's meant to be, but also like putting yourself in a situation where like you don't really feel ready to try to keep the guy, he's probably not going to stay around that long. So if you want to have sex on the first date, do it. And like, that's totally fine if it's consensual, like, but I just do think that if you're looking for like a long-term committed relationship, like it kind of can muddy things a little.
Totally agree. I think it's you're trying to skip steps. It's trying to
Yeah, and
build
it's like false
intimacy.
intimacy, because
Yeah,
like you're
exactly.
saying that emotional, like with your husband, like the relationship that you've developed with him over the time you've been together, like also increased the like physical connection, but like it's also because of that like emotional piece too.
Absolutely. It's that you're trying to skip steps, or you're trying to get someone to feel a certain way about you emotionally by going forward with the physical element of the relationship. And you're right. Like with women, we release these, chemicals and hormones that make us want to mate for life with this person. We might not even know their last name or anything about.
Right, or who even it's like that doesn't necessarily have kind of like, if you look at your non-negotiables.
Exactly. Like there's no point in rushing something that is supposed to be a forever relationship. You're trying to force an outcome by sleeping with someone too quickly, or trying to, even like trick them to feeling more intimate with you. It's just, I think it always backfires. I don't think it
I
ever works.
agree.
I think when things happen just like organically and naturally, like the right moment, then you're on the right path. But, like on a first date, you guys together. Yeah, like I don't know anyone in their 30s or 40s. In early 20s, yes, I know people that
It
hooked up
it
on
it
a first date.
definitely changes, right, from early 20s, I feel it's different.
Yeah,
Except that,
exactly.
like, yeah,
Yeah, when we were younger, we were kind of more open to things in a way. So if we hooked up
and
with
you're
someone on the first
figuring it
night, it'd be
out,
like
like college and all of that, yeah.
it was less. I don't know, it was less pressure. So I think maybe that's sometimes why things worked out a little bit easier. But
Mhm.
that's why I tell my female clients that, 30s, 40s, it's like channel your inner 28-year-old again. The one that felt like she was the hottest, coolest, nothing could phase her. If you didn't like me on a date, I don't care. I have plenty of other options. And just to kind of channel that confident inner 28-year-old of yours where there's no pressure, you have plenty of options. And
He's on his way, yeah.
exactly, that's what I do think there's a different energy in dating in different decades. One more thing I wanted to talk to you about, because I feel like this must come up a lot with your clients, because it does with mine as well, is finances in dating, or dating people from a certain, wealth
And
bracket.
especially I feel like New York, it's a big.
Yeah, like, I mean, I have female clients that say they earn 500,000 a year and they want someone that earns more than them, not even as much as them, like more than them, because they've told themselves that, well, he's not going to respect me if I out earn him. He's going to be intimidated. He's going to feel emasculated. They're already creating a story, a narrative around how someone might feel because they earn more. And because of that, no, I have to find someone that earns more than me,
I had
which
this
is like such a
conversation with
false.
the client recently, yeah.
Yeah, like how do you help them not let that be such a limiting factor? Because if someone earns 300,000 to your 500,000, together you're earning 800,000 a year. That's a pretty good chunk of money for you to have a very comfortable life together. And him earning 500,000 versus 300,000 is probably not going to make your life any happier or easier or better, right?
Yeah. So I think it's interesting because money, obviously it's currency. We need it. It makes the world go round. It's exchange, but there's so much emotion around money and our early money stories and image of how much somebody makes or what they do. But I think it does. I mean, and it's similar almost to the tall thing that we were talking about, that women, they want to sort of feel like taken care of, safe, and sort of secure, I think. And there is a lot of, I think, it's kind of ego of feeling like, is it going to throw off the dynamic that I'm making more than them? Like, what does that say about me? Are they going to feel attracted to me? I think some of that is there too. But I think really the core need is more of like, do they feel sort of like the person is a provider, or they feel like that sense of security and kind of like masculine energy. Obviously, like we need money, especially depending where you live. New York City, the tri state area, it's expensive if you want to have kids, like the economy we live in. So it is a factor. You want to know, like, do they have a career? But right, I think, like you're saying, it's how much money do we actually need? And does that actually, like, in what way is that going to like increase or decrease our happiness? Are we missing out on someone because maybe he's a teacher? But he's a good guy. You also don't know, like, people's money situations always
Right.
up front. People can have family money, they can have investments, they can have property. Like, you don't
Hmm.
know. And also, if you make more, maybe, I think it is more of an ego thing because if someone has everything else, but maybe their job, they're I I've seen people where actually like what I know my friend, she's a doctor and her husband's a social worker. And I've seen someone else like she's a lawyer, her husband's a social worker. Like, so, people make jokes about in social work school, just that kind of like, oh, social workers, so, or like they're a special ed teacher. Like, so I think it really depends. I mean, if it's a really big value for you, or see the woman, it really like doesn't have a higher earning potential, or she really wants to stay home, or like, there's different factors to consider, but I think it's important to kind of explore the emotional root behind it and the need and kind of, just see it's like, are you sabotaging something that, like, is this the only problem? Like, if there's other things, okay, let's look at that. If there's like addiction or he's controlling or
Hmm.
like some mental health issues or like you're just not attracted. But I think kind of going a little bit deeper to understand that. And I also think having a particular, like, I only want finance guys, or like, I wouldn't date a lawyer, or like, certain things where we're very, again, so fixated on the details as opposed to like the person, I think can get in our way. It is important. Money is important. We need it. But yeah, I think that, we have to be careful not to like let it block us.
Hmm. Yeah, I think what people are missing when it comes to looking for a partner that is financially responsible is it's not about what he earns, it's about how he spends. My dad always said
And
that.
manages, yeah. And also, anyone can learn to become financially literate.
Exactly. And there's studies that have shown that when men are married, they earn more money because they feel that responsibility. And so they're
And if
given
they
like
feel that encouragement and respect also, I think from their
exactly.
wife.
Exactly. And to not consider a partner that earns less than you just based solely on status, or you'll be embarrassed if he's not earning as much as you. I mean, most men don't care how much a woman earns. So to find a partner that's that same income bracket, he's not necessarily looking for women in that same bracket. Like they're fine dating someone who makes, less than 100,000 a year, as
Mhm.
long as they really, connect with her
Are
and find
attracted to them, and yeah, they have
exactly.
the other things they're
Exactly. So,
compatible.
and those women need to understand, like, you're not just competing with other women in that same income bracket, you're competing with all women. And, so it's when you have the majority of women going for the same small, very small percentage of men, you could end up single because if that's your only requirement, then you might not ever find your financial equal because he's not necessarily looking for you. Do you think your female clients understand that, or do you think they're still stuck on that? Like, they're, like, they want an
I
equal,
think
so I
it's a
want to be more.
mix. I mean, it's like a balance of wanting to, feel like you have stability. A lot of people say, I have a certain type of lifestyle I want to maintain. I've heard that a lot. Yeah, I think people do get stuck on it. I do try to probe a little bit about like what's going on here. Can you talk more about it? Like, where is that set in stone? Like, is it more like this is an excuse because it feels vulnerable as things are getting more serious? Or, and I think sometimes women, especially successful, high achieving, professional women, there can be this like hyper independence where it is hard to be vulnerable. And they say that they want to meet someone and they want love and, marriage. And then when it comes, first of all, maybe they're expecting it to feel like that obsessive, kind of amazing fireworks, or they're comparing it to when they were 21, going out and had no responsibilities, and then there's like, I think of kind of a fear of rejection, a fear of being vulnerable, and also a fear of maybe like losing some of the comforts of this life that they've now built as a successful, independent woman.
Yeah, that's interesting that you talked about because I hear this a lot from women that they don't want to downgrade their lifestyle. And that I always thought that was really interesting. If you find someone who makes a bit less money than you, it doesn't need to affect your lifestyle. But when you're in a relationship, you're not necessarily going to be doing the same things that you were doing when you were single.
Definitely a lot of compromise and change and
Yeah.
transitions, I think, and yeah.
Yeah, like I travel completely differently now since I've been with my husband than I did when I was single. I'm with my girlfriends. It's going to be different. I'm not, going somewhere where we're drinking all day long and staying at these resort, it's just different that now that I'm in a marriage. But I don't feel like I've lost out on anything because my lifestyle that I was living before I was married is different. I don't think of it as a downgrade. I actually
There's
think
just
of it.
always I think there's always just with every change, like there's pros, and then maybe there are things that you're not getting. But so, and I think normalizing that because I think maybe people feel like I can have it all, and you can, but just maybe not all at once.
Exactly. I think about, I live in a one bedroom with my husband. I'm like, if we lived in a three bedroom, would I be that much happier? Would my life be that much better? And honestly, I'm so happy in my life and my marriage with him that no, like maybe yes, it'd be nice to have more space and, more places to put my clothes or whatever. But no, I don't think I'd be that much happier overall because I married someone that I really love and really have a good relationship with. I think that's the most important part. Because when I was dating, before I met my husband, I had a fear and insecurity around finances. Because I had started my business, I didn't have a lot of money
Mhm.
going on with it yet, and I was really nervous. I was like, "Oh, I need someone to take care of me. I don't have any money saved for retirement. I don't have this." And I was looking for that in partners that were high earners. But I realized they were spending all their money that they were earning. They were going out, they were traveling, tables, restaurants, and they were spending like all this money. They weren't actually financially responsible. We would together, we wouldn't meet the financial goals that I had. And once I realized that, I was like, oh, actually, it's not about, like them being this finance guy and having this flashy job. It's really about their values around money and, being able to align on the value behind money, I think is the most important part.
Yeah, and have conversations about it. Yeah, and like be willing to learn how to be financially responsible. Yeah, and I think also kind of noticing, like you're saying, if there is like impulsive spending or all these like very intense grand gestures, sometimes right up front in dating, like to just be mindful if there is a little bit of love bombing or, those kind of things, or if there's like gambling or, any kind of behaviors that like could maybe signal that the person is not so grounded and stable.
Exactly. Do you think there's a point where someone's done enough therapy where, okay, I'm ready to date? Or is it, or, is dating and going on dates part of the therapy process? Do you have recommendations around
Mhm.
that?
So I kind of like thinking of it as like we're all sort of like kind of to be in the process. I think a therapy can be really helpful, but you're never with self development and growth, it's sort of like each stage of life kind of unlocks a new level of like, okay, like, when you're dating and you're trying to meet someone and you're working on your self confidence, and then you do meet someone and then you're kind of working on communication and like the adjustment to like now being in a couple and then like getting married and living together and having kids. It's like each like stage is what we say we want, but it definitely creates like new growth opportunities. So, I think just kind of like being mindful of that, and yeah, like kind of normalizing it, that you don't need to, you're never going to be fully done. So I think if you're feeling burnt out or if you're feeling like that sense of urgency or very angry or very desperate, it's always wise to maybe take a pause and reevaluate and, like you said, kind of reset. But I think you could be in therapy and it can kind of be an ongoing thing, that you use as you're dating. I don't think that you necessarily have to be like done or like fully therapized. I don't even know, what that is.
Exactly. Do you have any relatable client stories that you can share with us that you think could be good for my network to know?
Yeah. So when I've seen clients kind of initially come to me in that more anxious phase, then um when they like moving when they do end up like meeting someone and then kind of move into that phase, I feel like often the shift that I see when that does happen is kind of this like grounded centeredness within themselves and a sense of like enjoying their life and kind of the thing that initially maybe they're looking for like to get from a man that they're able to now kind of give to themselves or kind of like meaningful relationships, but this sense of like just feeling kind of at ease and in your own life and this place of like I'm ready to build with someone versus like I'm really lonely and I need someone to fill me. I feel like that's often when I see and they're usually like, well, I don't know, like they kind of just let it go and they tend to often maybe they will meet someone in the apps, maybe like through friends or matchmakers, but it's like often when there's this gentle like release and kind of contentment in the present, I feel that that's often when I see people meet someone. Yeah.
Is that kind of like the saying, when you're least looking for it, it'll come in a way?
Yeah, and it's so annoying, I think, when people say that when you're feeling anxious, but there is something about just kind of releasing a little bit. Even sometimes when people are waiting for text messages and then I've had like clients where in a session and they're like, I don't know, he hasn't texted me back yet. And then like they look down at their phone that, oh, he just texted.
Yep.
And so I think that, yeah, it's like subtle. And so I think also like knowing that it's really at any point you can kind of shift your energy. And with clients, I've noticed that makes a big difference. Also, if there's sometimes I've had a client that like they're in like a job that's very stressful and they're like that's very disruptive, or there's other areas of their life that feel very disruptive and they're like still trying to date. Usually once they kind of get that they get a new job, they move to a different apartment, like a roommate situation changes. Then I find that then when they're like in that grounded place and then they date, they often meet someone.
That makes complete and total sense to me. I tell my female clients all the time, just fill your life with things that you love. Like, don't join a running club if you hate running to meet a guy. Like, do things that you actually enjoy doing, because the energy that you'll bring to whatever space that is or community is going to be great. You're going to be excited. I actually had a friend, she called it the happy dog theory. Years ago, she was telling me when a dog walks into the room, and the tail is wagging and the tongue's out, looking really excited, everyone wants to come and pet the dog. Or if a dog walks in with tail between the legs or like teeth are out, it doesn't look very happy. It looks like he wants to bite you. No one's going to go near that dog. And she was like, you have to be the happy dog. And I thought that made so much sense, because I think I have at least a few people that I can think of that they'll go to events begrudgingly. They don't want to be there. They're there because someone forced them to, or they feel like they should be there, and their energy sucks. Like, no one's going to want to go up to someone who is like, closed off and isn't smiling.
I know. And it's sometimes hard when we're in that, but I think that sometimes just observing a little bit and giving yourself some compassion, like, okay, I'm having a hard time right now. And maybe leaning on supportive people that maybe aren't like not going to look for validation at a dating event or going on the apps when you're in that place, because you're probably just going to have experiences that kind of like confirm that limiting belief of like, see, like there's no good guys, like I'm never going to meet anyone. But it's really like you're kind of closed and you don't believe that you're going to meet someone. Even though you say you want it, you feel like, well, I never will. So what's the point? And I think that when we get into that why bother, really like our whole nervous system changes and we get into more of this like defensive kind of shutdown place as opposed to sort of safe and connected and open, warm and welcoming.
Absolutely. That's why it's like, find something that you really enjoy, love doing, and work from there. And then find more, communities, activities, things that will just bring you joy. But one thing that I think everyone should do is just some more volunteer work. I think that
Hmm.
gives you so much perspective if you're in the mind space of, I'm not going to meet anyone. No one likes me. Life is so hard. It sucks to be me. Everything is just so hard right now. When you spend some time with
You have
others
to
that are
get out of yourself.
exactly. It's you're able to do something nice for someone else, even if it's, going to a soup kitchen and serving food for an hour or, anything with kids or animals, just to
Like,
do
be of
something.
service.
Yes.
Yeah.
I feel like that so quickly snaps you out of this kind of selfish, almost depressed mode that you're in and kind of makes you see the bigger picture that life could be a lot worse. There are so many beautiful moments in this world that we can have. I mean, what a cute story to meet someone while you're volunteering, I think.
For sure. And it really is. It's like because you begin to stop to detach from the outcome. I think that's also with like meeting people. And I know even when we spoke about how you work with people, you kind of put out a lot of different channels for where you might find them. And that's what I tell people too. Like, yeah, the dating apps are great, matchmakers are great, like all these things are great, but put it out there to all those things and then release the details of where it's going to come because like it could come from anywhere. And so I think it's really just that belief that it's he's going to come.
I couldn't agree more. I feel like we have a lot of tools at our disposal, especially living in big cities like New York, where there are
And we
communities.
fixate times on them too much as like a magic wand.
Exactly. If, all your hopes and dreams are on a matchmaker that you hired, you're going to be really disappointed unless she introduces you to Prince Charming. Yeah, but if you're also dating from the apps or going to events or have a friend set you up, then you're more likely to not put so much pressure from your matchmaker and you'll be a little bit more open-minded because I have some female clients where they ask me for unicorns. They're like, I can meet anyone on my own, but from you, I want a unicorn. I'm like, well, the people that you're going to meet on your own and the people that you're going to meet through me are going to be similar. And that's the point. They should be similar. You shouldn't be aspirationally dating anywhere. You should be
Right. You're not a magician. Like
exactly.
you're very scaled and you have it like, you understand how people work and you've made a lot of matches, but yeah, like you can't make somebody appear out of thin air, especially if the person is in this place of kind of like fantasy and desperate.
Exactly. I'm glad that someone else gets it. Thank you. But I think this is a good place to stop. I had so much fun chatting with you. You're my first
Me
female guest,
too.
so this has been a lot of fun.
So exciting. Yeah. And I think we align on a lot of, our beliefs and values around dating and relationships. So it's really nice to connect with like-minded people.
Exactly. Well, tell us where people can find out more about you if they want to work with you.
You can find me on my website, rmpsychotherapy.com. There's information on how to book a call. And I'm also relatively active on Instagram, rm.psychotherapy. And I have a lot of free content around this kind of stuff too. So I'd love to connect more. In my practice, we have groups and also offer individual therapy, dating coaching. So yeah, lots of different tools.
We need all the help we can get out there.
And yeah, it's nice to, I think, have like collaboration because I'm always looking for matchmakers that share the same values because there's a lot of people out there, but
Yep.
you want to find someone that gets it.
Exactly. Well, I'll post all the links to find you. And I'm so excited that we were able to chat today. Thank you again
Thank
for
you
coming
so
on.
much.